So, good morning, everybody. I want to review AEW Dynamite, and I do want to mention really quick that with AEW, I haven't reviewed it for a few weeks because, I was in Tokyo last week. They didn't have HBO Max. And then also the week prior, I was working like 70 hours, five back to back 14-hour days. So I wasn't able to watch it, but I do want to consistently watch the show. And what I'm going to say is this that, one thing that I like and don't like about AEW is that they have a lot of matches. I think that sometimes in professional wrestling, there's shows like Raw that has way too much talking. And sometimes in professional wrestling, there's way too many matches and way too much action. That's almost like, why should I kind of pay attention to it? It's just, you have to have that balance between action and story. And I felt like, last night there were some positives, but I felt like there was too much action really. They should have done a lot more stories. So, and then the other issue is that I'm starting to agree with Wrestle Toddy, and I like what she was saying about, like, I think when you look at a lot of AEW, it's just very very predictable. So they have to kind of maybe have more matches that where you don't know who's gonna win, or sometimes you need to have some surprise wins. But a majority of their matches are highly predictable. So I want to go over some of the matches tonight. The opening match was Kenny Omega versus Swerve Strickland. It is will Swerve become the EVP or have some temporary EVP status, or is Kenny Omega going to take his number one contendership? So it was a little unpredictable to me because honestly, Swerve versus MJF would be a really great match. Swerve has always faced the world champion at Dynasty. So you were thinking to yourself, there's a high probability he could win. And obviously, that would be very interesting if he was allowed to have creative control and become an EVP. Like, what could we do if he was the EVP? Like, that could be in a very interesting direction. And then there's a lot of people saying that at Wembley Stadium they want to do Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega for the AEW Championship. And Kenny Omega looks like he's going to retire soon. He looks like he's slowing down. He's not really there that much, so he might be in that part of his life where it's like, I don't want to be there anymore. I want to do the bare minimum. So he might be getting a match to kind of like say, okay, we want to give you one more shot, one more championship main event um, main event right now because we know that what your time's coming up really. So it was unpredictable to me, and then the match went a good duration. There were near falls. Um, Swerve, I believe he low blowed Kenny Omega, but he did a little bit of cheating, but not way too much cheating. This was not like in TNA wrestling where they would just have so much shit going on. But it went a good duration. It was a great match. I enjoyed it. I was mad that Swerve lost because another reason why they're doing Omega is because he's Canadian, and they want to please the Canadian crowd. And then the other problem is that Omega kind of disappears a lot, and I don't really respect that when wrestlers go away for a very long time and they do that consistently, and then they get title shots because it's almost like um, it's just coming and going too much. That's just not really respectful. Like again, I work at my hospital. I work over I work like over 80 hours a week, really. So if there was somebody that came to work every few months, it's kind of like a fuck you to the person that's always there, really. So that's how I felt, really. But I also am a little happy because I know with Omega and MJF, they're not going to have a hardcore match. You could have done a lights out match or whatever, since Swerve was known for that with Hangman. But you can't always have people who like hardcore shit. Like, there's also talk of Darby Allen versus MJF in the future. And I think one of the big concerns is that, okay, that could be a hardcore death match, and you can't keep doing hardcore death matches for the main event of your wrestling pay per views because eventually As I said, eventually it just gets repetitive. Eventually, you have to ask yourself: is this AEW or is this Combat Zone Wrestling with a big budget? You know, that's the thing, really. The next match was the Death Riders versus Top Flight. I wasn't invested into the match. You know, some of the girls were really hot. The girl in the Top Flight group, she had a nice badunkadunk. Um, I had to point that out. She had a really nice badunkadunk. But the thing about it is that obviously you knew who was going to win. Um, it would have been cool if they actually had Top Flight win because again do something a little bit different. And then later on in the show, I'm trying to remember the other match they had. I think Speedball Mike Bailey had a match, and then he won. And then also you had a match with like Tekla versus Mia Shirakawa. That was also unpredictable as well because you kind of look at the fact that okay, maybe while Tekla is the champion, she kind of became the champion out of the blue. I believe like she won the title on Dynamite. So I was kind of like, you know what, that could be a little unpredictable. And then we also don't know what happened to Tony Storm. So obviously we don't know if it's Mina. So it makes sense to make Mina the champion, and then reveal that okay it was Mina or something like that. And then also, um, they had I think it was like the conglomeration versus the dogs, if I'm correct. And then they also have the dogs win, and I'm okay with that because obviously that's unpredictable. This company favors Orange Cassidy a lot, so seeing the dogs actually beat them shows okay. Well, what's going to happen with the dogs? Are they become the new trios team, or are they going to become the new tag team? What's going to happen with them? Um, and I also will say that the main event was Darby Allin versus Roosh. Um, Again, it's a regular Darby Allin crash dummy match. And Roosh, we obviously know he's going to lose. It's actually funny what happened with Tony Schiavone because Tony Schiavone accidentally called Roosh Andrade. But obviously, Darby's going to win. And it's kind of interesting because I think what's going to happen is there's going to be Brody King versus Swerve in a chain match or a dog collar match. I'm predicting that's going to happen, especially with the fact that Swerve beat the shit out of Brody King after their match at Revolution. And I also think what's going to happen is it might be Andrade versus Darby Allin, and the winner faces MJF at Double or Nothing. And the reason why they'll probably do that is because they might try to look at Takeshita and Andrade and a couple other people in Don Cal's family that could be baby faces and try to make them baby faces. Because I think that Okada versus Takeshita, that is very, very overdue. Like, they really have to get to, okay, um, can Takeshita beat Okada and get the international championship, or will Takeshita lose, be kicked out of the Don Callis family, and then he has his own direction, really? Um, I think those are important things to think about. What about Kyle Fletcher as a TNT champion? Will he be kicked out of the Don Callis family because he and Takeshita are friends? And then also too, you have to kind of wonder as well, where's AEW going with the Owen Hart tournament, because that's a big part of AEW. The winner of that goes to Wembley Stadium, and I think one of my big concerns is that there's a lot of people um, like Kyle Fletcher, John Moxley, Kevin Knight, people like Bailey, a couple other ones who should be in the tournament because of really how they're featured, and a lot of them already have championships. So you might run into an issue of multiple champions. But I do think for this pay per view they should have upcoming pay per view, they should have a couple of Owen Hart matches. I think the next thing that I would say about the show is I'm trying to remember what I was gonna say, but I just really think that oh yeah, they had Osprey versus, it's Osprey versus Moxley, FTR versus Edge and Christian, and the main event's going to be MGF versus Kenny Omega. So I appreciate them utilizing like the wrestlers that get over a lot, wrestlers that people really care about the most, really, because obviously you got to put everybody to work. Like AEW really needs to they really need to do their best every single time they go out there, and that's kind of what AEW needs to be right now because they're getting some good momentum. A lot of people are looking at WWE and they're like, what the fuck is this? They're like the nosebleed seats in Vegas are like $400, but now they're trying to lower the WrestleMania prices, try to make it more fair. But WWE's kind of turning off a lot of people by being so being such a freaking cash grab, really. So we're kind of at the point, in my opinion, with professional wrestling where a lot of these companies, a lot of people want to see quality really and have a good and fair price, and AEW has that, but they have to really improve the quality. It's not just. I think sometimes they do way more action than story, but I really think that sometimes they have a good balance. But I really think they need to just consistently have the right balance of story and action, so that way we care about what we're seeing, and we're not like, okay, it's just a good match. No, it has to be stories behind the matches that help this company, and definitely they don't do it to the best of their abilities.